and finally looking into it, and I have the utmost respect for people who are making this peer-reviewed research, because that's one reason I haven't made, if anyone's wondering ever, maybe you've wondered this, why I don't have a hemp recipmite specific video. And it's because I honestly don't think that, because I like to focus on peer-reviewed research to derive most of my information from, it just doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So I don't really want to make a video that's, oh sure, maybe I'll get a bunch of views, well, a bunch for me anyways, but
But it's not relevant or accurate or whatever.
yeah, it's all going to be anecdotal, and maybe I'll make an anecdotal video and be very upfront about it, but my
I,
best
I
friend.
don't I would appreciate that. I mean, I don't need you to have a degree or peer review to trust your knowledge base. You know, when I've spoken to other people about your and I's relationship and our professional friendship, you know, they say, oh, he's not, you know, I said, but he knows so much. I don't care where you got your degree or what you studied. I studied psychology and now I'm a freaking biochemist in cannabis and horticulture. Like, I don't care what you studied. It's about what you focus on. And go ahead.
I just wanted to interject and say that I appreciate that compliment a lot, and I also feel that you're right. Like, and especially I think people nowadays are a lot more. I mean, maybe people don't feel this way always when they look at the news or whatever, but I think generally speaking, the average citizen in like certain countries and nations, at least, are very educated. And at the very least, we can access like scientific reports and make some heads or tails of it. And if not, you can ask somebody like in your university extension to like explain things. And I think that you shouldn't have to have a degree. Some things are going to be complex. I'm not a genetic, I don't know genomes, but I know hologenome theory because it intuitively makes sense. And if I ever say anything wrong, I'll admit it and I'll own up to it. And I'm not, my ego isn't attached in that way. I've talked to plenty I get a lot of interaction with people like from research institutes as well, and I interact with such people. And having a PhD or an MD or whatever degree you have does not make you immune to high amounts of ego or making. I mean, there's plenty of examples historically of people who were scientists that rallied against a new theory or idea because they were the ones who come up with it. A good example is like in the Salk Institute of Biological Studies. I think the current president now, he's very famous for neurogenesis. He didn't discover it or anything, but the idea that like neurons, I guess in the hippocampus, there's like a pool of cells, and you can create more neurons, and that was a big deal. And I think with the president particularly, his thing was that he was able to show that activity stimulated this effect, this neuronal growth. And I might be saying it wrong myself here, but my point is that like that kind of didn't happen until other people sort of had their own interactions with this effect, and then it coalesced over time. And then but like here's the thing, like some people might get like the Nobel Peace Prize for that kind of research, but if it becomes contested or something, then suddenly then that's out because they don't want to like give a prize to something and then have it
Yeah.
immediately taken
Isn't
back,
that
right?
crazy stupid that these people can go earn the Nobel Peace Prize on something that is then seen as wrong, but they got the Peace Prize because they went to the university, they conducted the research through their advisors and ran it up the chain and got it into, such and such journal of peer review. and that's a different path than what we're trying to take. We are, theoretical and applicative. We don't want to waste time in building people's trust in us, quite frankly. Either you trust us because you've tried it and it works for you, or you need more verification. And so you're sitting there waiting for more peer review evidence. But in the meantime, you have no solution.
Right. Right.
So,
Most saliently, right, is that you need the solution because your crops will die.
yep.
Like, yeah, what can you do? What can you do? And what you can do is talk about finally, the aphid parasitoids that you've been waffling about for 20 minutes.
Uh-huh.
So me specifically, but it's an important thing, and I'm glad we talked about it. Honestly, it's a like people get their egos wrapped up in the research. It doesn't matter what degree you have. It doesn't matter. People will say something because they want to be thought of as right, especially on the internet. And sometimes you're wrong. And sometimes
Uh,
research changes, and
yeah.
that's fine. Like my video about IPM and cannabis, about the origins of cannabis, might get totally upturned. But I'm like, don't take my word for it. Here are all of the research reports I cite. That's fine. Take it up with them. They're
Yes,
not the. I mean, I
exactly.
didn't do the. In
Yeah.
some
No,
ways, it's actually.
did you see my soil analysis that I just did recently? I had a soil test sent off to 4 consultants, and I had them all do separate analysis and send them back to me. And,
Right.
um, you see these differing or dissents in opinion, and nobody's wrong. Everybody's doing what they think is the best means for the end. And that's my experience is, your education and your credentials mean less than the information that you hold and your quest for curiosity, I would say.
And your accessibility, like
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. Like it does not matter to me at all. Like at all. If people of various means, especially less means than others, can't access the information, then I don't really care. I mean, I care that it's not being told, but it's
Yeah.
like it's really too bad that it
Yes.
happens so much. And I try, and that's why I make the videos I do, so that people can access the information, find it for themselves, or I'll give it to them. Um, but it's very much like I try to couch, but I do rely heavily on such research, and so we have to find that nice commingling between the documented research that is where they make the experiments that matter, like beat curly top virus. Beat curly top virus was long suspected and recently confirmed. Wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
be possible to do that without the researchers, and I'm incredibly glad that that research is happening. At the same time, like you can't just don't be disparaging, I guess is
Yeah.
the point.
Yeah.
Just don't be disparaging of the new information, because cutting edge, bleeding edge information is coming out all the time,
Yeah.
and you know that's just
You'd
how it
be
is
you'd be
nowadays.
doing yourself a disservice by discrediting any of this information without like a bank of information about it. Like if you're just taking this info and going blah, that's bullshit because there's no peer review, then you're missing important information.
Potentially, absolutely. And it's not wrong to say, well, it doesn't look like it's been researched, but anyone who's talking about bleeding edge stuff should kind of say that already. So
Yeah.
like it's kind of a moot comment to make a little bit.
Yep.
But it's like with what's happening currently in the world, like there's people with all kinds of ideas about what's effective as treatment and not and all that sort of a thing, right? So I do understand from the perspective of like information security. One of the things I wanted to do in the military when I was going to military schools, I liked the idea of doing infosec and military intelligence. And I love that kind of stuff, and that's why the
Mm.
the sort of not to like toot my own horn or make myself seem really I don't know what impressive perhaps, but like I do love that kind of stuff, and so.
There's nothing to
Um,
be ashamed of when you're interested in something and you're good at it, by the way.
Yeah. Oh well, I appreciate that, but it's just you can tell the environment that I
Yeah, I
interacted
can.
with for a long time. Can you? Yes,
Yeah,
I have
absolutely.
to sometimes. I have to when it comes to being right and having being a source of information. I am super diligent, but it doesn't matter. Sometimes the accepted way things are, a lot of the times, is just totally upturned, and everyone who is right is wrong fundamentally because we were fundamentally wrong.
Yeah, and there's
Um,
nothing you can do about that because you're building on the shoulders of giants. You're just building on
exactly.
yesterday's research. So,
If you weren't
Deal.
going to make that metaphor, I was going to make that metaphor. So I'm glad that you
Uh-huh.
did. But like with regards to the aphid parasitoids, I guess I should just say it. So on my overview of aphids, I talk about aphid parasitoids on that video on Zenthanol. And so there's like three big families that I mentioned. I have them right up here. Aphidiidae, which has two I's in it. That's the dia. Aphilinidae, and the Braconidae. So these three groups, and specific, like the genera. Well, I won't get into it, but basically, I mentioned that Diaratiella rapae and Aphidius urvi are both species in the subfamily Aphidiinae in the family Braconidae, and also Aphidius matricariae, which we found in the Kashmir Valley. There's probably other Aphidius colemani. Probably, they probably have some effect, and I know that there are biocontrol companies out there utilizing them.
Hmm.
But to be quite honest, I don't um, I don't have personal experience with all of them. And sometimes these products, they're like people don't know this, but they're released with like multiple species, right? So
So
like they're
go ahead.
oh,
Go.
so there
I was gonna keep going. Yeah, go.
there are products where like it might be like Erythmoceras, which is another parasitoid wasp that infests whitefly, for example. Different whiteflies for different species, some of them more than others. And so instead of just putting out one species, they put out multiple. And you can't tell the difference necessarily as a crop scout. And so I can't really say one variable over another, or like you might put out lacewings and parasitoids just to like hedge your bets. And maybe the lacewing larvae feed on a bunch of aphids, and then you never see any parasitation. Well, is it because the parasitation couldn't happen, or because there's no more food anymore, no more hosts?
So that's what a great segue into banker plants. Real quick, we're gonna run out of time in
Right.
3 minutes, but
Oh shoot.
um,
Okay.
banker plants, cereal banker plants. This is a new, well, relatively new concept of cannabis. Cereal aphids are a different family of aphids that will attack barley, rye, and wheat that Aphidius will feed on while your bong aphids are not around.
True. One big problem though. Rice root aphid, Rhopalycyphum rufia abdominale, does
Get it?
feed on grasses, wheat,
Uh-huh.
barley, all those sorts of things. And I've very much found that the rice root aphid will be on somebody's like feral grasses on their field or near their greenhouse, even in an urban setting. And then it's like they're like, we're getting rice root aphids all the time. What's going on? And I like
Yeah.
go 3 feet outside their door and I pick up there it is. I'm not saying that you can't use these things, but creating like a banker system where you have an aphid that doesn't feed on cannabis and then like facilitating its growth, but the generalist parasitoid can feed on that and the aphid is a great move. I've heard of people trying to use that effectively, and I think they've also done this before in various other crops for this because it works. You
Yes.
can build up the population and then release it inoculatively.
That's so I will be doing this. I ordered my my cereal bank starters. I got my hair nets, which is how you're supposed to grow the cereal, through the hair nets. Um,
Mm.
and then also the hairnet will contain the it's foxglove or whatever aphid that we buy for the cereal banker plant,
Mm-hmm.
and that system takes 6 weeks to develop before it can be introduced and preventative in your garden.
Oh, I see.
So it is extremely extensive. And for anybody that wants a link to this, feel free to DM me. I can shoot you a link to the step-by-step cereal banker plant system. But it's nothing easy. It's complex as hell. And if it doesn't work, I'll be the first to tell you that this was a waste of time.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing your research. And if anyone wants to see these videos, um, Aaron has allowed me to put this on my YouTube channel, Zenthanol, and I'm sure you'll put it wherever you're going to put it. And I look forward to the additional interactions from everyone who watches it.
Absolutely. I look forward to comments and responses. And Matthew, you and we got to set up something on Zoom and do this more regularly, I think.
I definitely agree with that. Let's do that. Let's make it a
Cool.
thing.
Cool. We will do that. I'll message you. We'll get something squared away.
Sounds good. And I